What's going on, everybody? It's Catfish on Ice with your host Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How about you, Chad?
Doing well down here in sweltering hot Florida, but guess what? It's hot everywhere.
It is really hot everywhere. It is the summertime. It's June. What are you going to do about it?
Dog days of summer. Preds are long out of it. We got the Stanley Cup Final going on right now. Oilers are trying to stay alive the best they can.
They did for one more game.
If you remember, last episode, we did our Stanley Cup predictions, and Max is looking like a very wise man right now. So wise. Can you give me your lottery numbers? Max, what are the Powerball numbers tomorrow?
Oh, it's 3, 2, 8, 5, whatever it is.
Let me write that down. 3, 2, 8. Okay. For real, though, Max, we're not saying it's going to be true, but I do remember Max saying, I got receipts saying, I could see this series going 5, maybe 6 in favor of the Panthers. My dumbass said Oilers in 7, which could still happen. It could.
And if it does, it's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But I'm really excited about Game 5 because, Max, as you know, we're going to break it down a little bit more. This series has been – it doesn't feel like a 3-1 series. The Oilers have been the victim of some really spectacular, all-time great goaltending up until Game 4 from Sergei Bobrovsky. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But I think actually that this series is – I still think Panthers are probably going to win it. No one's coming down from 3-0. But I got a lot of faith in the Oilers in Game 5, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. It hasn't been like a completely lopsided 3-1 series like that. But with the Panthers, how well-rounded they are, with how often they punish mistakes, I still think they're going to get it done. Which how could I change my prediction at this point, honestly, knowing what I came in with?
So we got some awesome news for the podcast. We got a new sponsor jumping on board for the Hockey Podcast Network, which is our amazing podcast family network that we're a part of. Manscaped is jumping on board with the Hockey Podcast Network. And I got to tell you guys, we got a great offer for our listeners. First of all, guys, I live down in Florida. I'm always sweating. Got a lot of hair in weird places. Max is laughing. I knew he would. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, which I do a lot, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com. Use code THPN summertime, and the trimming is easy. So, Max, dude, in Florida, I'm telling you right now, the chafe happens. You gotta stay groomed. I know it sounds really ridiculous, but it's true. Hey, I got the beard going.
So do I. Well, I actually shaved it fairly recently, so it hasn't been as long recently for me.
But below the belt, you gotta take care of it. You do. We don't like to talk about it, but it's true. You gotta take care of it down there. The Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why you trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas. Inside the package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. I mean, it's 5.0 and it's Ultra. That means it's pretty damn good. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Again, that's get 20% off plus free shipping with the code THPN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code THPN at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. There you have it. All right, we're really excited to have Manscaped jump on board with the Hockey Podcast Network. So let's get into it. That's a great way to start Catfish.
I know, right?
Episode 235. We're in the dog days of summer. We're in the off season. There's not a lot of Preds news. So why not we just start off with a great sponsorship like that.
Exactly.
But in all seriousness, it is a great brand. I've used it. It's awesome. And there is a need out there for that. Trust me. You got to stay groomed out there, fellas. You got to. All right. So we're going to break down the Stanley Cup Final. We got to get into some Preds talk here, Max. Some other stuff so free agency opens 2 weeks from today, Max.
That's right. Yeah, exactly 2 weeks from today.
And you can get all the predictions you want to get out there. You really can. We've written a lot of good articles on predlines.com that you can go check right now about certain players we want to go after if you're talking about the Preds. And look, the Preds are in one of the strongest positions. They're among, 5 or 6 teams in this league right now who have probably the most buying power right now.
I haven't looked exactly at the rankings, but $26 million, which it probably went up even a little bit because the cap is now at $88 million for the year, I believe. The Preds are going to have a ton of money to spend. So and actually, I was texting my dream off-season plan to one of my buddies who's a hockey fan, and he literally texted back, "Why not throw the kitchen sink when you have it?" The Preds literally have the kitchen sink right now.
They do. And it doesn't mean you have to do that necessarily. We're not saying that Barry Trotz has to be reckless with his spending, but I mean, you have to also be aggressive. You can't just rest on your laurels. You can't just sit around and just not do anything. Right. I mean, so we're going to get into it a little bit more. We got a good short list, and maybe it might even be a longer list. Let's be honest. If you've watched any of the first 234 episodes of Catfish and Ice, you know that we like to go on rants. We like to go off course. We like to take off ramps. We're probably going to do that, but we do have a short list of really enticing free agents out there that we need to at least talk about, considering where the Preds are at in their money spending ways. Also, Max, we got to get into some potential breakout players next year for the Predators because it's going to be really hard to project what that's going to look like because we don't know what this roster is going to look like necessarily. But we're really going to look at some players. We had a lot of players who broke out last season for the Predators. We're still waiting on some other guys to really get that first big season. So we're going to really break that down as well. And then also the goalie market is going to be really hot this offseason. Of course, UC Saros is one of the key centerpieces of that around the league, but it's not just UC Saros. You got Jacob Markstrom as well in there. You got some other goalies out there. Max, you brought up a really good question when we were getting ready for this episode. You talked about, are goalies really worth investing that kind of money?
Oh, yeah.
Compared to elite wingers, compared to elite defensemen.
Centers, that kind of stuff. Is
it really worth it? And that's really valid when we're talking about the Predators right now because we're in the middle of that debate right now.
Yep.
So that's what we got in store for you. Also, some crazy things that we've come across in the hockey Twitter universe right now that we'll get into as well. But let's first, Max, talk about the Stanley Cup Final. What has happened so far? Your prediction is looking very Nostradamus of you right now. So, Max, tell me, first of all, do you think this series has gone exactly how you predicted, or what is working so well for the Panthers? Because I got to tell you, first off, it does not feel like a 3-1 series to me. It's not me taking away any credit where credit's due to the Panthers. And we kind of hit on this, Max, in the preview episode. In the last episode, we talked about how different these two teams are.
Yeah.
We touched on how the Oilers have a lot of elite top-end talent, but we touched on Sergei Bobrovsky, and we both said, even with my Oilers in 7 prediction, I still was very adamant about Sergei Bobrovsky. I trust him way more than I trust Stuart Skinner. I thought that Connor McDavid and the superstar talent would have made this a closer series up to this point. And Sergei Bobrovsky, up until Game 4, has been the elite difference maker. He's put up the best numbers ever in a Stanley Cup Final for a goalie up until Game 4.
Right.
So, Max, what do you got, man? What are you really seeing from this?
Yeah, basically, you're right that it's not been a typical 3-1 kind of series where the team is just it's a completely lopsided thing and one team's clearly outplaying the other. Like last year, Florida versus Vegas, like that was a complete domination by Vegas. Vegas from start to finish basically controlled that series. And it hasn't been quite that same way for this in this series. Especially Edmonton really had Edmonton in terms of like they talk about like the deserve a win-o-meter. Like they absolutely deserve to win that game 1 in terms of how they played. Game 3, they also got really close. Obviously, that game 4 was pretty silly. That's not going to be the norm going forward. But when you really look at it holistically, no matter really how we think it's gone, the Panthers, in my mind, still have really dictated this series because you look at number one, like I say, they're a much more well-rounded team. Bobrovsky, like you said, Bobrovsky in net, like he stonewalled the Oilers in game 1. That was a huge factor. And then going back in game 3, so I didn't watch all of. In fact, I watched just less than half of it because I was actually on a plane on Thursday. I watched some of it on the plane, and then I didn't watch the rest of it. I watched up to like about the some of the second period. But basically, the Oilers, they were, in that game, they were doing well. They were getting zone time and all that kind of stuff. But all of their opportunities were either a clean look saves for Sergei Bobrovsky or turned into steals. And then the Panthers at the end of the period score a goal. And then in the second period, they go for 3 goals in a span of few minutes. Like they're just so good at punishing mistakes. And again, they're far superior in the physical game. Again, the lineup is much more well-rounded. They don't have quite the firepower the Oilers do. I mean, pretty much nobody does. But like, again, they still have, it's not like they lack firepower, really. They still have a lot of good players. And ultimately, and also another thing, and this is kind of a lame thing to say because obviously the Oilers blew the Panthers out of the water in that game 4. But yeah, all of the Oilers' goals in that game.
And there's already rumors going around. It's like, did the Panthers just quit in that game? Do they want to hoist the cup down in South Florida?
Right. But what I'm going to say is that all of the Oilers' goals in that game, except for one, which was on a 5-on-3, all of their goals, 7 of their 8 goals, were in transition. Like the Panthers in game 4 were absolutely terrible in the neutral zone, but they're going to make adjustments. And the one adjustment, if I'm Paul Maurice, I'm saying just up our play in the neutral zone, and we have a much better chance of clamping them down. I mean, you can't really clamp down the Oilers completely. They're the Oilers. They got all that talent. But again, Connor McDavid, but before that game 4, didn't have a heart, didn't do much. Like,
what was the quote? What was the quote from Connor McDavid? He said, "We're going to make sure we can drag them back to Alberta."
Right. Yeah.
Quote, drag them back to Alberta. I mean, I look. Game 1 for me is the total X factor of this series. And I'm gonna put a tweet out here on the screen for all of our YouTube viewers to check out because it really resonates with me. So let me make it to where everyone can see it really good. So Jesse Pollock there puts, if Edmonton goes into Florida and wins game 5, I don't think they're losing another game in the series. I'm not saying I agree with that tweet. What I'm saying is this. Look, guys, game 1 is if game 1 flips towards Edmonton, which you look at those numbers, shots 32-18 favoring Edmonton. They went 0 for 3 on the power play, which is like crazy that Edmonton does that.
I think they scored 1 power play goal all series.
Yeah, which is just to shut down their power play. I didn't see that.
Like Florida's dictating this series.
No, they're good. And I'm not taking anything away from them, Max. But what I'm saying is like that game 1 is really the difference maker in this whole series. You look at Bobrovsky in that game 1. I mean, the dude just completely stole potentially a Stanley Cup. You know how hard it is to do a shutout in today's NHL, and you're going to do it in a game 1
against McDavid, Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, all these guys.
I mean, you want to talk about like living up to the biggest moment you can possibly live up to as an NHL goaltender. It is Sergei Bobrovsky in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final going up against the world's best player. It's a team game, I know, but like a star-studded top-end roster that Edmonton has to throw at you. And it's not like Bobrovsky didn't face anything. He saved 32 shots, 32 of 32. He was not just sitting around waiting to make saves.
Yeah, they were quality shots too.
That's the difference of the series. So Max, if that game does not happen, I know it's always ifs, ands, and whats, but if that is a different game and a different outcome, and Sergei Bobrovsky does not do that, our discussion right now is so much different. The entire hockey world is talking about how it's tied 2-2, and Edmonton's about to put their foot down on the throat of Florida. It's that one game that changes everything. So my argument is that, and what Jesse here is saying, that I don't totally agree with, but I see where he's coming from. You steal game 5 if you're Edmonton, which I don't take it away from them. They can't steal game 5. If they take game 5, dude, and it's 3-2, things get a lot more interesting because it's going back up to Canada. You got to get back on that plane.
Yep.
I'm just saying this Stanley Cup Final still has a couple breaths of air left if you're rooting for a competitive Stanley Cup Final, which I am.
Well, I will say this about this tweet. I see where Jesse's coming from, although I don't share that mentality at all. And here's what I'm going to say. Hockey's the ultimate weird sport in terms of like shoulda, coulda, woulda won games, all that. And we've seen it a lot this playoffs. And we saw it especially against the Preds opponent, the Canucks. They had a lot of games in these playoffs where they won, where they quote unquote shouldn't have won. And the Panthers are the exact kind of team that's going to win games that they quote unquote shouldn't win. Again, they're elite goaltending. They punish mistakes. They're physical as hell. Something is going to happen where it's going to, maybe if it shouldn't go their way, something's going to happen where it's going to go their way. And maybe Edmonton's going to win in the next game. Who knows? I personally think Florida gets it done tomorrow night. But I just cannot see Edmonton winning 4 in a row with how well-rounded Florida is and how, again, they can just come out of nowhere and just score on you or just rob you of goals. I just don't see Edmonton being able to do it against a team as well-rounded and crazy as Florida is.
I mean, they are very well-rounded. They are, and you really cannot argue with that at all. I got another funny one here. The hockey memes, they just don't die around here, and I love it. This is why I stay on social media, honestly. But you know what? With my prediction, I'm still sticking with this right now, folks. That's me right there. So you're telling us there's a chance.
Of course.
I mean, that's every Oilers fan right now. That just for me being super just greedy intentions because I predicted Oilers in 7 and I want to feel like the smartest man in the room. That's me right now. So you're telling me there's a chance. Game 5 is going to be a fun game for me to watch because I want to see if the Oilers can really I want to see if they can throw a game at the Panthers that the Panthers threw at the Oilers in game 1. Because you just mentioned it, Max. There's a lot of hockey is a crazy, wacky sport, and things that don't make sense happen all the time, and that's why we love hockey. If something like that can happen for the Oilers in game 5, and it's 3-2, and you're going back home, I'm telling you, it's going to get interesting. But to win 4 in a row against such a well-coached and just a disciplined team like the Panthers are is next to impossible. It's about as close as impossible as you can get. I'll have a lot more respect for the Oilers if they can win game 5 and then maybe they lose in game 6. I want to see how much fight they have in them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really interested in, how they show up in game 5.
Yeah. Again, I could absolutely see a game, but again, also I didn't mention is Bobrovsky, I don't think it's kind of a game where he gets pulled again. He's going to bounce back. And with all the stuff the Panthers have for them, the Oilers might play really well, but again, and I love Paul Maurice. He's such a smart coach. He's one of the best coaches in the league. I mean, and it's crazy that he took over the job for Andrew Burnett. I know, right?
Who coached that team to a President's Trophy and all that stuff. And, Paul Maurice has given plenty of credit in public and probably in private as well to how great of a coach Andrew Burnett is and what he did with that team. But that makes you feel good as a Predators fan, right, Max?
You know what?
That we
You want to know honestly what I find more interesting than any of what you just said? A few years ago, Paul Maurice willingly stepped down from the Winnipeg Jets, saying he felt they needed a new voice. Now he's on the Panthers. He's led them to a cup final last year, another cup final they're probably going to win this year. What does that say about Winnipeg's team?
Yeah.
Sorry,
true.
Jets fans. You're probably just enjoying your day. I just came at you for
Damn,
no reason.
they just took Max is sending strays at the Winnipeg Jets right now. Like, damn.
Yeah, but seriously, that's an interesting look for a team like that.
I mean,
that like what's going? I mean, who knows like how that.
So down here, Max, I got an interesting perspective about this whole situation when it comes to the Panthers. So I'm down here in Tampa, as everyone knows, Tampa area. I'm in St. Pete.
Yep.
And so I'm in Lightning country, and I can tell you right now, you would think, and I've been asking a lot of people. I work in the service industry. I work at a hotel, so I talk to a lot of people and a lot of sports fans. We get a lot of Tampa people who are on staycations who stay over in St. Pete for a weekend and they want to just get away from home for a little bit. And me being the hockey guy, like I love asking people how they feel about the Panthers. I love asking Lightning fans how they feel about the Panthers. Are they rooting for them? Or are they not? Totally non-scientific. I'm not out here doing like numbers and graphs and stuff, but I can tell you that the overwhelming majority of Lightning fans, the legit Lightning fans that actually know what they're talking about, they are wholeheartedly, you're going to be shocked about this, Max, rooting against the Panthers. The rivalry between the Panthers and the Lightning,
at all.
It runs deep.
Oh yeah, it's not like Canada where you just like they root for each other. Like no.
And I'm telling you, that first round series, I mean, so many Lightning fans are like, yeah, the Panthers are a dirty team. They play dirty. They roughed us up in the first round. They're doing the same thing with the Oilers. What do you think the Panthers are borderline a dirty team? Do you think they should be? Do you think that's a fair way to?
I don't know.
Dirty. I mean, dirty is such a like a hard term to say. Like that's going deep in the paint when you use the term dirty. But do you think they push the envelope a little bit? Do you think they kind of straddle that line sometimes?
Here's what I'll say about that. And like,
because Sam Bennett is
really physical. But
yeah,
you remember back in round 2 when Sam Bennett hit Brad Marchand and Brad Marchand was out for a few games. And we all know Brad Marchand, his reputation. He's been that kind of dirty player and all that. And they asked him about that hit that he suffered and that knocked him out for a few games. And his answer was basically like, look, guys in the playoffs are going to play hard. Did he get away with one? Sure. But like he's doing what he's got to do. He's extremely physical. And that's just part of playoff hockey. And that, let me tell you, number one, that made me respect Brad Marchand a whole lot more hearing that. Like he clearly is not a baby when it comes around to him, but it's also like playoff hockey. Again, it's extremely hard and physical. And I think there's been a lot of teams you can say, but I will say this, and another fan base I'm picking on for seemingly no reason. No team, every team in my book maybe gets an excuse because the 2017 Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah. So so we're running through the social media stuff here that I've came across here in terms of Stanley Cup stuff. Let's tie the Predators in here. So you get all these tiers. These people like to make these tiers, and they're always fun. Some of them are just ridiculous. I actually found this one to be really, really interesting. So the tier list here is from X. I'm not going to even try to say that user's name, but we got it on the screen so you can see it for everybody. But it says, how should your team feel exiting the playoffs? So Max, I'm going to run through this really quick for our non-YouTube and Facebook and X viewers, the people who are listening on the podcast platforms. They can know what I'm talking about here. But how should your team feel exiting the playoffs? So your top tier is massive success. Obviously, they got the Panthers. No shocker there. Your next tier, you got exceeded expectations. The Oilers, the Capitals, and the Bruins. I got a problem with that tier, but let me read the list. The next tier, met expectations, can't be upset. You got the Rangers, the Lightning, the Islanders, the Canucks, and our beloved Nashville Predators. All right. The next tier down, you've got should have done better. The Stars, Avalanche, and Golden Knights. I'm in full agreement with that tier. How about you, Max? Should have done better.
Stars. I think the Stars might be kind of a tweener between.
No, they should have done way better. Stars are Stanley Cup
now you're probably right. That team was so well rounded.
But the good position that the Stars are in is they're built to be around for.
They will be just fine.
It's not panic mode.
No,
then the bottom tier, which is called panic mode, and I laugh because the first team I read is the Toronto Maple Leafs,
which is obviously justified.
Very justified. The Carolina Hurricanes, they got a rough offseason ahead of them. They got
I don't know if I'd say panic. Probably between that tier there. The other teams I fully agree with, though.
But they got a lot of decisions to make. They
sure do.
If you're a Hurricanes fan right now, you're kind of like freaking out a little bit because you got so many great players and up against the salary cap. We're going to talk about a couple of them because the Predators fit into that a little bit. And then you got the Kings. I don't know if that's fair to put the Kings
I think it's fair. I honestly.
You think it's fair?
Yeah, that team is like they've rebuilt their team and they've been, fully in their new window for a lot of years. They haven't made it past the first round once. And not only that, they've done technically worse every year. Like in the playoffs, they've lost to the Oilers 3 years in a row. The first time was in 7 games, next time in 6, this year in 5. Like that team is not taking the next step at all.
I don't think that. All right, I get what you're saying there. I don't think it's fair to put the Jets down there either in panic mode because they overperformed. I remember plenty of preseason. I remember plenty of preseason predictions where the Jets were like either predicted third. I sure as hell didn't see anybody predicting the Jets to make the conference.
I can see what you're saying there. The only one I really actually have an issue with is the Canucks being there. They exceeded expectations.
They should be higher. The
way they went to the playoffs. I mean, I don't mean this as a backhanded.
I think the Predators should be in the exceeded expectations.
Yes, absolutely. But that too, and the Canucks too. Like they fought their way to the playoffs. They scratched and clawed despite all the adversity they went through. No one expected them to be anywhere near the play. I mean, maybe in the playoffs, but nowhere near clinching their division. They did. I think the one team they really did the Canucks dirty there on that one. They definitely exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I think the Canucks and the Predators both.
Yeah, I would say the same thing there.
And then I was going to tell you in terms of exceeded expectations. I'm sorry, you got the world's best player. You've been trying to build up to this moment for a long time. It might seem unfair that I'm saying this, but it's how it goes when you got Connor McDavid, you got Leon Draisaitl, and you've got a host of other ridiculously superstar players. I'm never going to say the Oilers exceeded expectations if they're not winning a Stanley Cup. And I know that seems unfair, but I'm just calling it like I see it. And I'm calling it like Connor McDavid is probably seeing it as well right now. So it's really hard to pinpoint the Oilers because they got the world's best player and they've got some other.
Although they did start the season really, they put themselves in a bad hole to start the year. So I can kind of see it from that perspective.
It's just hard for me to think about the Oilers exceeding expectations when they are the Oilers and they have Connor McDavid.
You're right.
I agree with the Bruins because they were supposed to take a massive step back. The Capitals are probably one of the biggest surprises in the league, along with the Predators in terms of over exceeding their. So, I mean, overall, it's a pretty good list. I don't think it's that's why I'm sharing it tonight because I don't think it's one of those clickbait lists. I think it's actually a well done list that whoever made that list. Just a few disagreements here and there. Yeah, but good stuff there. All right, so let's move along from the Stanley Cup Final here. And let's get into some more deep in Preds talk here on episode 235 of Catfish and Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, presented by Manscaped. Promo code THPN, 20% off. We're going to tell you a little bit more about DraftKings here in a little bit, our longtime sponsor, also with promo code THPN. But first, Max, let's get into the free agency shopping list, and not just free agency, but also via trades. You don't have to do everything through a free agency. You can make trades this time of year too. Everyone gets lost in the unrestricted free agents out there, but you can make trades. You can do wheel and deal. And so I'm going to get the list up here on the screen soon, but let's get into Max. How about you kick us off? Who is like top on your radar, most realistic free agent that the Predators maybe could go after?
Free agent, I'll say I'm going to go say a few things. I wrote, and so I'm going to preface this by saying most of the forwards I want the Preds to go after, I want them to be through trades, not free agency. But if there's one free agent forward who I really think Barry Trotz should look after, and I wrote this in my article, I think he should look at Jake DeBrusk from Boston.
Oh, wow. Okay. I haven't seen that one brought up a lot. I've always had a lot of respect
I think
for
that would be a very good get. He's only 27.
Mm-hmm.
He's analytically inclined. He has a good shot. He has a lot of stuff around the net. He has speed too. He has a lot of good things, and I think he'd be a really great ad because the Preds need help in like the upper middle six, and I think he'd be a really good get there.
So you bring up Preds needs. And so before we really dive into the list, we're going to put it on the screen there and we'll list it off for all of our listeners. And again, if you're, watch on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, watch us on X at Catfish Ice, watch us on Facebook if you're the Facebook person here. And you can see a lot of the stuff we put on the screen. You can join live and comment with all of our Catfish and Ice community as well of hockey fans, such amazing people that watch our show. But we're going to put the list up here shortly, but Max, you just brought up Preds needs. So let's first, before we get into what you should do in free agency, let's talk about the Preds' top need. For me, I'm thinking defense here. For me,
that's absolutely up there as well. The right, and I've said many times, the right side of the defense.
Well, because I don't know what the hell is going to happen with Alexander Carrier,
right?
And I would love to keep him, but it just I don't see how they're going to. I don't know if that even makes sense at this point.
I don't know either.
I mean, the fact that they didn't trade him at the deadline tells me that they were just going to let it roll and see what happened. They didn't get any,
said our own rental.
Yeah, they didn't get any offers that really, I don't know, like for whatever reason, Trotz said, you know what, we're going to keep him. I just don't think they're going to keep him. And so they can go bigger now. And I have tons of respect for Carrier. I think he could end up having a really outstanding NHL career. But the Preds could probably upgrade from him in the free agency market. There's a lot of good defensemen out there. And we're about to put a list out there.
That one, Brett Pesce's one who I fully expect Barry Trotz to go after.
So let's go ahead and save the suspense. Let's get it on the screen. This is not like etched in stone. This is a very short list of a lot of free agents out there. This is just a list that I compiled really quickly. There's others out there, obviously. There's others out there.
Zegras is not a free agent.
But we're talking about shopping lists.
Oh, like overall. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we're talking about off-season overall. We're not just talking about only free agents. We're talking about trades as well. So there you have it there. So let's talk about Brett Pesce, Max. I think he's a very, if you're talking about realistic,
yes,
free agency pickups that could really be a big splash for the Predators, I think Brett Pesce, that's why I put him at the top of the list.
And the Preds were looking at trading from last offseason. Now that he's hitting the market, I fully expect Trotz to, if there's one that I can say, like I predict could actually be a signing, I think that might be it right there. Yeah.
And I mean, he's coming off a year where, he didn't put up a lot of points, but he is a prototypical two-way defenseman. Yeah. He's a great penalty killer. And you want to talk about something the Predators really need more help in, it's definitely that, a type of player like that. He's going to be a foundational top four defenseman. Yep. He's going into the prime of his career, you would hope. And I really don't think you're going to have to break the bank to get him either.
No, I think like a $5 million contract would be as plenty as you need to give him.
And from what I understand and just reading what I've seen out there, he wants to stay in Carolina, but Carolina's in they're in a world of hurt right now.
Yeah, they have so many guys out there. Like they're for sure not going to keep both him and Brady Shea. I just don't see that happening.
Yep. And then let's go further down the list. So yes, Trevor Zegras, he is not a free agent, but Max, you've been very, very adamant about how smart of a trade that would be.
Oh, yeah.
So let's catch everybody up that maybe didn't listen to episode 234. Give your short opinion on that again. How that can work out.
I'll say, kind of run it down again, that Trevor Zegras, he's had a bit of a rough go at Anaheim recently with a recent injury and contract negotiations not being the best, but a guy that I think has potential, and maybe he won't get there, but a guy who has really potential to be a true number one center for a franchise going forward, I think that's him right there. Like, he has so much talent, and I just think he's the kind of guy that if you're going to take a chance on, it's that. And also, that kind of leads me into a segue. There was an article today from the fourth period that had a lot of information about the Preds and guys who are linked to the Preds. And one of them was Trevor Zegras. And that put a smile on my face right there.
That would break the bank. That would not break the bank. That would just break it'd be a bigger splash than Brett Pesce, just because he's a dynamic forward. He's a highlight reel guy. Brett Pesce is more of a, he's a hard-nosed blue-collar, like we can argue all day who would benefit the Predators
Brett Pesce's
more.
Like a meat and potatoes player.
Yes. And, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, let's go down the list a little bit more. And we're going to throw some other guys in there, too, outside of this list that I came up with. But Jake Yentzel is really getting a lot of talk. He's going to be one of the top free agents, Max, in the market. It's going to be who is the highest bidder. I think there's going to be a lot of people going after him. I can't see the Predators actually landing him or getting him, but I had to at least put him on the list because the Predators are one of those teams that has money to spend. They can make a very big splash if they choose to, and they do have a lot to offer to any big-time free agent out there. There's going to be free agents out there who saw this team overperform last year. There's going to be a lot of free agents out there who are going to see the well-respected league-wide veterans that are already on this team, like Ryan O'Reilly, like what Philip Forsberg's starting to build, like Roman Josi. They're going to want to play with players like that. They're going to see Andrew Brunette, and they're going to think, I want to play for a head coach like that. They're going to see Barry Trotz, all the respect that guy has. They're going to see this amazing Bridgestone Arena home crowd and that atmosphere. And they know how it is to play in Bridgestone Arena when it's rocking. They're going to be like, I want to be on the home side of that. Nashville has a lot going for it when it comes to the free agency market. So that's all I'm saying when I think about these big splashes that maybe on the surface you think, oh, the Predators are probably going to get outbid, or our big-time free agent's gonna overlook Nashville and go for a more of a blue blood type of team. But I'm just saying Nashville is becoming more and more attractive to these big-time names. They are.
Yeah, and one thing they're going to see also is they're going to see how Barry Trotz handled the Ryan McDonough trade and be like, that's a guy that rewards hard work. And
yes, I love that you brought that up. Yeah. Yes, I love that you brought that up. All right, let's go a little bit further down the list. This is a bargain pickup that I'm looking at here. I actually just came across this today, Max. I was just scanning through articles. I was looking at all the different latest news and rumors and reports that are out there. And Anthony Duclair is a journeyman player who's played for so many different teams in the NHL, but everywhere he's played, he always finds a way to produce. He's a bona fide goal scorer. He's an offensive guy. He's going to provide you bonus offense. He's going to be cheap. He joined the Lightning this past season at the trade deadline, and he did really well for them, actually. Gave them a lot of bonus offense to help push them into the playoffs, and then they ran into the buzzsaw that is the Florida Panthers in the first round. But Anthony Duclair is someone these aren't predictions. These are just players I'm throwing out there. Anthony Duclair would be a very, very modest and relatively cheap pickup for the Predators if they're looking for that middle six scoring boost that you're talking about, Max, when you brought up DeBrusk.
Yeah, I think he could be a really good stopgap for the middle six. Potentially, if he was maybe on a third line with Colton Sissons and maybe one of Novak or Evangelista, I think that'd be a really good third line and a guy that you can a good veteran guy that can help be who can be, again, like a stopgap for the younger guys too, as they develop and round out their games.
And when you really think about it, I'm saying, look, I really think just in terms of roster and uncertainty, the defense it freaks me out right now because of Alexander Carrier. Tyson Berry's leaving. We already traded Ryan McDonough. You got some unproven prospects that got to come up still. But when it comes to what really was glaring in the playoffs, well, yeah, it was scoring. I mean, the Predators could not buy a goal. Right. I mean, if you can even find half of the offense in the first round, you beat the Canucks, and at least you can say you broke your first round curse and you're in the second round. And who knows what happens after that. So a lot of people are naturally going to say, no, forget the defense. The Predators need more scoring. They need more of this. They need more of that. So maybe Anthony Duclair could be a really bargain free agency pickup. They could give you that, and you still have plenty of money to spend to also address the defense as well. So that's kind of where I'm thinking there when I bring up Anthony Duclair. Yeah. Let's go down. Nikita Zandarov. I have a lot of respect for this player. Hard-working guy, hard-nosed guy. He would fit in with the way the Predators play very well. He's another guy who I don't know if the Canucks are going to be able to keep him, even though they might want to. What do you know about? What are you thinking about that, Max?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly got a good taste of Zadorov from when he played us in the first round. We know he's a big, physical, bruising D-man. Not my preferred option. And I know he has capability of whatever side he plays on, but just because he is a left-handed defenseman, ideally, we're going for a pure right-handed guy. Yes. That's really my only kind of gripe with that. But Zadorov would not be a bad get by any means at all.
And then let's round out my short list. And then we're going to bring up a couple other players once we get away from this list. Let's go to number 6. This would be a home run swing. I don't see it necessarily happening, but I really like this player. And it's even hard to predict what's going to happen because this guy is getting ready to win a Stanley Cup.
He's literally playing right now.
But Brandon Montour of the Panthers, he is a rising star of this league. He is the more I've learned about watching his tape, I'm just like, wow, if we could get this guy on the Predators somehow, it would be like a home run steal. Yeah. And so I saved the end of this list for like a home run swing, but Brandon Montour, he's even addressed it throughout. Like, I mean, it's pretty common that when a free agent, a pending free agent is in the middle of pursuing a Stanley Cup, they're not going to say anything. They're going to say all the right things. You're not going to hear anything about them possibly being lost in the offseason because they're athletes. They're trying to win the ultimate prize. But in the end, it's still a business. It's still numbers. It's still, can you make it happen?
Right.
And the research I've done, it's not a foregone conclusion that Brandon Montour is coming back to the Panthers, even if they do win a Stanley Cup. So he is a player that if he somehow does hit the market on July 1st, I am going to be all over it like Barry Trotz. Get on the phone. Do what it takes to get this guy.
I mean, he is going to be expensive, so that's probably the only thing I'm like, I don't know, but like
you got to spend money sometimes, though, Mac.
But like, where do you want to spend your money? Is it you want to spend it there? You want to spend it elsewhere? I don't know, but that no doubt about it, though. Brandon Montour would be a huge get, and the top pairing with him and Roman Josi would be something else.
Let's get caught up with some comments here. We got some people jumping in. We got Redemption, Johnny jumping all in. He's been here for a while. Love you, Johnny. Thank you for jumping in. He said, before Game 5 and the Canucks blew the doors off them 4-1, Canucks won Game 6 at home before the Rangers finally won in 7. Panthers just better not let it leak any Cup parade plans. I think they will be okay. Matt on X says, sorrow for Marner.
Yeah, So we're gonna get into this early. So kind of what Matt's talking about. So I sent him something today, and it was the article from the fourth period that I just referenced, and probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I saw in that article that Mitch Marner, one of the teams he's linked to is the Preds, and that Saros and the Preds are not. There's no guarantee that they're going to pay Saros the $8 million+ extension. And if he does get traded, Toronto is one of the teams that's linked.
Oh, juicy.
So that's where Matt's going with that.
Juicy. Also, real quick, more comments coming here. But also, I forgot to mention, hey, our long lost and beloved Victor Arvidsson is going to be a free agent.
That is true.
Yeah. How crazy would that be? Well, I mean, who's to say that Barry Trotz would not bring that RV back just to –
He's always his injury issues ever since Robert Bortuzzo. It's always.
But I mean, I saw on, I think it was on Sportsnet, top bargain free agents out there. Victor Arvidsson had one of the highest shot outputs, and we know this of RV.
Yeah,
RV was like that. That dude is never. You want to talk about? Let's talk about the Preds and how they could not buy a shot on goal in a lot of situations. I mean, if you get him for a bargain, I wouldn't be totally against it.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you can get bargain and stay healthy, that could be really good.
More comments here. Let's catch up. Our friend Justin. Losing McDonough, it's tough because now they have to replace him.
Yeah.
Very true. And Justin also says, I know not everyone is on the Zegras train, but I would love to bring him to Nashville, skilled and still room to grow.
Yep.
I love the last part of that is what I love the most.
That's where I'm like, he's 23 years old. He legit, and it's really, and like, yeah, a lot of people think maybe it's the idea, but like, it's not. It's more than an idea. Like, he's 23. Like, I think anyone who thinks he's reached his ceiling is.
Oh yeah.
No, it's not. He hasn't.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then finally, and Justin also says, talking about Nashville, of course, the fun city mixed with no income tax. Aha. Why wouldn't you want to play in Nashville? Yeah.
Why else did I move back here? Besides,
I mean, that no state income tax. I'm just saying that does play a factor in sport, whether you like it or not.
Oh yeah.
Our buddy Matt Hardesty, we love you, man. He says, "Yo, boys."
Matt, what's going on?
And he's already said no thanks. I don't know what he's saying no thanks to. Probably our whole list.
Matt, I got to know which one you were talking about there,
yeah,
buddy.
But I mean, Matt, he is the armchair GM, but he actually knows what he's talking about. So I don't want to like sell him short when I say armchair GM, because sometimes that's used as a negative term when you call someone an armchair GM. No, he actually knows what the hell he's talking about. I love my interactions with Matt.
I do know he's been.
He says RV.
Because I do know Matt's been a huge proponent of a Zegras trade.
Yes, but no, he's talking about RV. Matt Hardesty is talking about no thanks when it comes to RV. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I'm actually kind of with Matt on that one. I'm not
okay, but let's show some old time love to our fellow co-host, old time co-host Rich Howe. Rich Howe used to always say, "What if we traded a bag of pucks and like a gift card to somewhere? Would you take RV for that?
Probably.
Bag of pucks."
I mean, my again, the injury concerns is just where I'm at. It's just I
get it. All right, so outside of our list, let's address Steven Stamkos again.
Yeah,
he still doesn't have a deal, Max. It's crazy.
I will say though, 8 years ago when he was a free agent for Tampa, he still didn't have a deal till 2 days before July 1st, and this was when he was still a key like 20-year-old player. Like that whole thing is nowhere near.
Well, what are they waiting on? They were 2 weeks away. I mean, if you really want I thought it was going to happen really quick as soon as the Ryan McDonough trade was announced. I thought, okay, it's coming. I mean, there's clearly something going on to where it's still taking longer to figure out because, all right, the Bolts, their cap situation is pretty rough as well. Like they're having to move around a lot of numbers. And they're trying to stay relevant. You don't trade for Ryan McDonough and add that salary cap that cap hit onto your books if you're not trying to stay relevant. So they obviously have something cooking, and everyone seems to speculate that what the Bolts are trying to do right now is run it back one more time. Let's run it back with Stamkos and with Hedman and with Kucherov and with Point and with Vasilevsky. Let's try to get one more taste of that dynasty that we had. And all we needed to do, our missing piece, we traded for McDonough. We got him back. Let's get Stamkos re-signed. Why has it not happened yet? I mean, I'm just saying, and I know a lot of Preds fans. I got overwhelming pushback on social media that most Preds fans do not want Stamkos. I did get some positivity.
Really? I think Stamkos would be a good get.
I think a lot of people are just worried about his age. But here's my thing about Stamkos. You can't – look, I get that people are allergic to going for older players because when you look at this Predators team –
this is different.
I know. And so Matt's saying the same thing, and I get it. Please know we have enough career winners over 32. I get it. But Matt, and I'm not saying you have to agree with me, but here's my line of thinking. Steven Stamkos is built different.
He is.
He is different. There
He
are exceptions to every rule.
Yep.
I agree. So when you say let's stop signing aging players, I'm with you, but I'm not going to put Luke Shen in the same category as Steven Stamkos when it comes to signing these aging pedigree, Stanley Cup pedigree players. Steven Stamkos, he's on a different universe when it comes to that. I will break that exception to the rule when it comes to Steven Stamkos. I still don't think I don't think it's going to happen. I still think the Bolts are going to figure out a way to sign him, but it's just so crazy to me that it hasn't happened yet. That's all I'm saying.
Again, I just think you got to wait and see what's going to happen. 2 weeks is still a lot of time if we're thinking about it, and no trades really have not happened yet. There's things that again a lot can unfold in 2 weeks, but I'm with you mostly, chat. I mean, if you look, like not only is Stamkos got the pedigree and all that, but like a guy who can legitimately score at will,
and he's a leader, power play, a leader in the locker room. I mean.
And you're gonna need another leader, veteran presence now that McDonough. You lost a huge. McDonough's gonna leave a void in the locker room if you don't replace him.
And I'm not saying that all these like articles that people write they know what they're talking about, but a lot of people have already pinpointed Nashville as a top 3 possible destination for Stamkos if somehow he does not resign with Tampa. Just take that for what it is. We'll see. I mean, Nashville is in a very strong position to sign players right now. That's all I'm trying to say. So you got to even bring up the players like Stamkos. Real quick, before we wrap up this segment, Max, did we leave out any really big-time players we have to cover?
I don't know about any big-time players, but if one player that I want to mention who hasn't really gotten a lot of mention, but as a player I've been all over, and I even commented on your article posting on Twitter, one defenseman I would look at, Matt Roy from LA. He's a really good defensive defenseman, super physical, also analytically inclined. And you're going to need more physical guys too, because the series against Vancouver showed you're going to need more of that. I think a guy like that would be a really good get, and he's still under 30 for the time being. That's a guy, if I'm Barry Trotz, even if Pesci doesn't work out, that's still a guy I'm really talking to because I think he'd be a tremendous get. Can also be, and one of my thoughts there is, if you're looking, because the Preds have shown they like Spencer Stastny a lot. And if you're looking to get him a bigger role and you want a guy who can somewhat shelter him and make Spencer not have to play super physical, well, I think Matt Roy's a perfect fit in that regard.
Very under the radar, sneaky free agent pickup that the Predators could pull it off, for sure. I think we're all in agreement here that the Predators are going to add someone in the offseason to address their top 6 defense.
Oh, like especially on the right side. They have to. There's no way they don't.
All right. We're about to move on here. We got some other things to touch on here. Episode 235 of Catfish and Ice. Let's tell you about the OG sponsor. That is, of course, DraftKings. And yes, we're getting into the dog days of summer. Everyone cling on right now because it looked like both the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Final were heading to sweeps. But both teams, both Dallas, the Mavericks, and the Oilers said, we're going to extend it a little bit longer at least.
I will say, though, Dallas is down 20 at the half. It just went there. It looks like they're running on fumes.
Look, I'm no NBA expert, but going into that final, I mean, I love Luka Doncic. I really do. He's fun to watch. I like Kyrie, but I saw a massive mismatch. I mean, the Boston Celtics, they are a train. They're so good.
Between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and all the other
and they're so deep. Yeah, they're a good team. They're a fun team to watch. All right. But when it comes to the Stanley Cup Final and DraftKings, the chase for the Stanley Cup continues, and the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is just as hot as it is on the ice with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boost, and so much more. Don't miss out as the Stanley Cup playoffs wind down. It's so sad, Max. I'm getting kind of sad. I don't like reading that line. But let's look at what we got for DraftKings Sportsbook lines right now with let me pull it up real quick. Let's see what DraftKings is saying about the NHL Game 5 Stanley Cup Final. Right now, it's at Florida on Tuesday night. Yep. So if you're listening this morning on Tuesday, tonight's game, right now, DraftKings they've got the Panthers as a minus 135 favorite. So they are on the Panthers to take care of business and go ahead and close this out. It's not a heavy favorite, but they do have that. If you want to believe in Connor McDavid or McJesus, whatever you want to call him, and the rest of that Oilers team, and extend it to a Game 5, you have an opportunity there to maybe use our promo code THP and make yourself a little money. But yes, right now, if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you just bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/ice for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. All right, so there's our offer. You got a little bit of time left with that offer to put your promo code THPN in, get on DraftKings, put your money on the Panthers, put your money on the Oilers. You still get those bonus bets. Great offer for you. All right, so Max, let's get into our next subject here, and that is potential breakout players for next year. So we've already kind of like touched on this topic a little bit, talking about prospects that could maybe make their Preds debut next year. But now we're going to look more into the part of the roster that's already gotten a taste of the NHL, and we're waiting for them to take that next step. So first of all, last season, we saw a lot of guys have what you would call a breakout year or a career year, whatever you want to call it. But let me preface this by saying, Max, when I say breakout year, I don't mean like they set a career high, like maybe.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm talking like they go to the next stratosphere, like they really level up. So let me start off with mine. The first player I think of when I ask myself this question, it was naturally Luke Evangelista for me. I saw so many good things from him. It was in his technical rookie season.
Yep.
Which, I mean, potentially speaking, he could have really fell flat on his face in his rookie year, and no one would have really came down on him too hard, I don't think. Let's just say, Max, hypothetically, that last year he would have had some really bad growing pains. He would have really struggled, maybe been healthy scratched a lot. Dare I say even sent back to Milwaukee. How much would we actually be panicking over him? But he didn't do that. He actually played very well. He was a very important part of generating offense.
He missed only 3 games all year.
Yes. I mean, you look at all of his metrics, he did a lot of you look at his underlying metrics, he did a lot of good things well. And of course, he still has room for improvement. He just finished his rookie year. So, of course, he has room for improvement. But that's why he's pinpointed for me as a breakout player.
No, I 100% agree. And that's probably my first choice. I have 2 other ones I really want to talk about, and they're both younger, inexperienced guys. Other one I want to talk about, Tommy Novak. And I know he had a good few points this year. He got signed to another contract. But, again, this playoffs especially showed he has a lot of room to grow, especially in his physical game. He mentioned he's going to want to get into the gym, get stronger, get tougher, that kind of thing. And that's going to be required if he wants to take his game to the next step. So we're going to want to see that out of Novak. And also another player, too, And it's in probably some will argue, and I understand, we probably got to really see this guy play fully before we say it. But Spencer Stastny, too, I think has a lot of potential to really take a next step in his game. Because pretty much the McDonough trade, at least at this point, again, you never know how things are going to play out. But McDonough trade at this point shows that, at least to me, that Spencer Stastny is going to be highly dependent on going into next year. And with him, like they showed they're really high on him. He played in the playoffs, and when he's played on the ice, he's been really good. So I could see good things really happening to Spencer Stastny next year.
So when we talk about breakout players and the players we just listed, let's try to give thresholds on where we think they would have to get to in terms of being able. So when I think of Evangelista, I want to hit. I mean, it's just a number. It's just a plateau. It doesn't mean they have to hit that to be a successful season. But the first number I think of for Evangelista is definitely 20 plus goals, 50 plus point producer. And I think he can easily hit that. I think he could even, I think I'm underselling him when I say 50 points. I think he could hit 60 points if he really puts it all together and he gets the right line mates. And a lot of people forget it's not always just about the player. It's about the coach. It's about the coach coaching that player in the right way, putting that player in the right position to succeed. So when I think about Evangelista, there's a lot of unknown variables right now when it comes to what he can actually produce. I'm a full believer that if you put Evangelista in the right positions to succeed, and I'm looking towards Andrew Brunette to do that, and I have full faith that Andrew Brunette will do that, he is a 50 to 60 point talent next season. I am a firm believer in that. I really am. He has that raw talent to do that immediately.
Yeah, I think 60 points that's probably a little. I think 50 points is definitely safer. 60 might be getting up there. For me, for Novak, it's weird because he had already 46 points. I think Novak could be into that 60 point range. And also I want to see him, and I know hits aren't everything. He only had 5 hits last year in all the games. You want to see him get a little, that's pretty low.
So the thing about Novak is he is I'm really torn on where he needs to be in terms of a winger or a center. I think he's such a tweener right now.
So far, and I really think until he really improves, I'm not sitting here saying Novak's got to be this bruising power forward, but until he shows that he can take at least a step further in his physical game,
he's got to up it up a little bit.
He's gonna get center. You got to be stronger. He's gonna have to be wing until he really ups his physical game.
Well, and to kind of further your point on that, look, there's going to always be players who don't play that style of game, and that's fine. But unless you're just the ultimate high-end elite player, you have to have a physical part of your game. Only the most elite of elite players can get away with not being physical if they're that good, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're not you can't. Not everyone's Patrick Kane.
Exactly, and there's other ones that you can name who aren't Pasternak.
Right.
Pasternak's not
really the one I think of because
Pasternak will definitely. I'm thinking Pasternak, and not because he doesn't get feisty, he doesn't get in the scrums, but just because Pasternak's I'm talking. There's supremely elite offensive wingers and centers out there who are so good that they don't even have to be physical. They're just so good. It's whatever. You just overlook their defensive metrics because they're so good. Yeah. Novak's not that.
No.
So, yeah, what you're saying, Max.
At least not yet.
He's got to improve in that area, definitely. But Evangelista, he is very undersized.
Yeah.
So you can say the same about Evangelista.
He also has to improve his physical game.
But one thing I'll say about Evangelista, and I would have to actually go back and look at the exact numbers, but I remember just eye test. Evangelista did show plenty of times where he was at least impactful in the defensive zone, whether it was blocking shots, whether it was, trying to be a part of it. And he's got room to improve, of course. Of course he does. And so, but just looking at that, I'm thinking 50 to 60 point range for Evangelista. Novak, Novak, for him to take the next step, he's got to make more of an impact on the power play, and he's got to be more of a center. He's got to be more of a distributor as a center. He's got to pile up those assists. He's got to keep improving with his ice vision, and he definitely has to capitalize more on the shots he gets on net. But for him, I got to see him take a step forward when he's quarterbacking a power play as a forward.
Yeah. And as far as, talking about Spencer Stassi, and this is why I'm saying maybe you maybe see a little more before you say breakout, but pretty much for me, what I want to see from Spencer Stassi next year, where I can say he's taking a next step forward, is if he can play, 65 plus games and gets like 20 to 30 points. I think that's attainable for Spencer Stassi.
So what's crazy about this whole discussion is it's really hard to find players that you can pick on this team right now who could be breakout players, because a lot of players that are already on this team have already had their breakout years. We're not going to say Roman Yossi is going to have a breakout year. Gus Nyquist just had one of his breakout years. I mean, the dude found the fountain of youth. Do we really think Ryan O'Reilly's going to have a breakout year? It's like, it's hard. Colton Sissons, you could argue, just had a kind of a mini breakout year. He had a career year, that's for sure.
You could also, some could maybe throw Yaroslav Askarov, but he's got to make the league first.
I mean, that, how crazy that would be if he came in next year and just like lit it up.
Yeah, but that's a guy where we truly got to see more than 2 games total at the NHL level.
You can't just like pick that out. But it's hard to find guys. I mean, we're not even talking about some of the young players that we were all crazy about this time last year. Juuso Parssinen, Philip Tomasino, Cody Glass. We're not even talking about them right now. I mean, it doesn't mean that we should give up on them and they can't have breakout years next year. Out of those 3, who do you give the best chance to have a breakout year out of those 3? We'll round up this segment with that. Parssinen. Okay. Do you think it's because he's the most well-rounded, like big body type of player?
I just, this is gonna sound kind of sad when I'm saying this, but between Tomasino and his, he's flip-flopping between Milwaukee and Nashville. We haven't seen anything consistent from him yet. We just got to see something there. And Cody Glass, I don't know, man. Something about him just seems like it's not gonna work out. Like, he just seems, I hate to use the word fragile, but something there just seems like it's going to prevent him from clicking fully at the NHL level. And make no mistake, we heard what Brunette and Trotz said about him at the end of the season press conference. They're not going to wait. They're not just going to sit around and help him overcome. They want a guy who's going to make an impact, and their job is not to coddle this dude.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Philip Tomasino out of those 3. He's got to get the opportunities, but I'm going to take Philip Tomasino. I think when it comes to just raw talent, and just they got to find something that works, I'm going Philip Tomasino out of those 3.
Yeah.
But all 3 of them are I don't want to say they're in the doghouse, but they're definitely on the outside looking in right now.
I think Glass and Tomasino are kind of getting close.
Yeah. I know they got a ton of fans who are just so crazy about them.
Oh, I especially Glass. I want that kid to succeed.
Well, of course we do. But, I mean, I'm talking, you've got a ton of Preds fans out there that are, so, loyal to, Tomasino or Glass, that if one of those players throws on another sweater, that loyalty of the Predators is gone. They're going to be buying that new team's jersey very quick. And I love that. I love that there's fans out there who become loyal to certain players. They get that they just get that link. They get that emotional connection to a certain player, and they follow that player no matter where they go. That's a beautiful part of the sport, and I love that. But Tomasino and Glass both have a very strong fan base, though, within this fan base. And if those 2 guys leave, those fans are going to be following them wherever they go. But okay,
I think there's a very good chance at least one of them is not a Nashville Predator.
I also think there's a very good chance that there's a player that's not currently on this Predators team right now that we might add in free agency this offseason who might also have a breakout year next year. But it's hard to predict that right now because they're not on the team yet. But I'll just leave that out there just now.
Ooh, cliffhanger.
We'll revisit that. Mm-hmm. All right. So Max, we're gonna close it out really quick, rapid fire with a topic regarding, are goalies really worth investing the money that because the salary cap's going up finally. It's still nowhere near compared to the amount of money that other leagues had to spend on players. The NHL is still front offices are still completely like having to jump through hoops and whatnot and move mountains to figure out how to build their rosters and keep players they want to keep. But at least the salary cap did go up a little bit. So teams do have extra money to spend. But how important is it is a goalie? Is it overblown? Is it, it's hard to ask that as a Predators fan because we're so spoiled with goaltenders, right. Max.
Yeah. And kind of what, it's kind of a similar debate as to, in the NFL, do you pay running backs? I'm not equating those two things at all. And I'll just say right now, I don't think those two are equal. I think, that's a whole different discussion there. But here's the thing. For years, I've been of the opinion that, like, you need really strong goaltending in the playoffs. No one wins without it. But I'll be honest, in the past, recent past, I've been kind of challenging that belief of mine. And I saw a stat that Jay Fresh tweeted the other day.
Yeah, I'll find it right now.
That really kind of took it over the top for me, saying, you know what, maybe that's not really the truth. Because if you've looked since 2008, I'm just going to read, and I know numbers are not everything, but here's some of the things I saw. In 2009, when the Penguins won the Cup, Marc-Andre Fleury was their starting goaltender in the playoffs. He had a sub 92, 90.8 save percentage and a negative .21 goals save above expected. Next year, Antti Niemi for the Blackhawks had a 91% save percentage, again, sub 92. 2014, Jonathan Quick, 91.1 save percentage. 2015, Corey Crawford, negative .04 goals save above expected. Next year, Matt Murray, 0.11 goals save above expected. Not much. 2019, Jordan Binnington. Everyone made a ton out of his playoff run, but the numbers say 91.4% save percentage, again, sub 92, and negative .07 goal save above expected. And then 2022, Darcy Kemper, 90.2% save percentage and negative .56 goal save above expected. And all that to show, the numbers tell you elite goaltenders, they're a luxury, but they are not a requirement to go far in these playoffs. And especially when you look at a team like the Nashville Predators with UC Saros. Yeah, UC Saros has been great over the years for us, but you're going to have to pay him $8 million a year plus. And can you sit here and say that's worth it when you have a blue chip talent, in which he has to play, of course, but when you have a guy like Yaroslav Askarov, who's coming up, who's as hyped up as he is, you just hired not even borderline, a legendary goaltending coach in Mitch Korn. Like, and again, like the article from the fourth period today said, the Predators are going to be hesitant to give him that extension of $8 million plus per year. And I can't, and I agree. I would not give that to you, Stars. It's literally a business decision.
So let's just run through the list here of the last Stanley Cup champion goaltenders. Aiden Hill, 2023, still a very young goalie, one of the top young goalies in the league. Darcy Kemper in 2022 for the Avs. That's the one that sticks out the most on this list. Yeah. Minus 0.56 goal saved above expected per games played. So he's in the red there. Then you go further down. Andrei Vasilevsky, that's an outlier. I mean, he's back-to-back.
But that obviously insane.
But let's also look at it this way. I mean, that Bolts team was not just built around Andrei Vasilevsky. 2019, Jordan Binnington. How's Jordan Binnington doing these days?
Kind of average.
I mean, his numbers weren't bad. He was very average.
And he was actually pretty lights out in a few games versus Boston.
He was. And hey, the Blues got their cup, so good for them. Let's go further down. Braden Holtby, he's a great goalie. Matt Murray back-to-back. Of course, Preds fans know about. Look at 2017. That's just not even fair. Playoff save percentage for Matt Murray against the Predators, 93.7.
Well, that wasn't just in the finals, was it? That was whole playoffs, right?
I know, but I'm just saying, they went up against him is my point. Corey Crawford, 2015. Here's something I got to push back, though, on this tweet. It's kind of coming off you don't have to have a good goaltender. The goaltenders I'm reading on here are still great Most of them are really they're above average to they're the only really like mid goalie I see on this list that's just Darcy Kemper.
And I will say about that,
a lot of these goalies are pretty good.
I will say about that number with Corey Crawford in 2015, that number is probably a little bit of a lie because that year they played the Preds in the first round, and that round he really struggled. But other than that, he was actually pretty damn good. So that number might be a little bit of a lie.
But I'm looking at the names of these goalies, and it kind of like, you can take 1 year and say, oh, they weren't that good that 1 year maybe, or that one playoff stretch, or maybe they were average. But I'm reading these names. These are some of the all-time great goalies of our generation. Jonathan Quick, Corey Crawford, Tim Thomas, Marc-Andre Fleury, Chris Osgood in 2008. I don't know. I think this tweets. Jay Fresh is awesome. He's one of the best out there. He puts out so many good stuff. But I think the tweet's a little misleading, honestly. These are high caliber. None of these. I don't see one. The most mid goalie I see on this list is Darcy Kemper in 2022, and we know how loaded and stacked that Avalanche team was. So they really didn't need a great goalie.
It does show. I guess
I don't know.
But it does show again, like that. If you have you have to have a great team. But if you have that great of a team in front of you, you can get away with kind of average goaltending. And again, in the case of the Preds, when you have a Scarf, is it worth paying Saros that $8 million plus per year? I think not.
Well, and that's the question we have to answer. That's not going to be easy, but it's really hard to say right now because are we going to find out in the next 2 weeks, Max? Do you think we are?
I don't know, man. The one thing, and
do you think Barry Trotz is going to let free agency open up without having UC Saros signed? And not even that. Do you really think that Barry Trotz is going to go into 2024-25 without UC Saros having a long
That's what I'm saying. The one thing that cannot happen, he cannot just roll the dice on UC Saros and think, okay, we can win now. No, you have to pay him or trade him. That's and I prefer trading him, but the one thing you cannot do is just roll the dice and let him hit free agency next year. No.
All right. Good stuff. We're going to have plenty of time to talk more about that in the coming weeks, but we are going to round out episode 235 with another great meme I came across as we get ready for Game 5 of the Oilers and the Panthers on Tuesday night. Here you go, guys. The Stanley Cup Finals. You got Tiger Woods and John Daly. Classic meme. Tiger Woods is the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers with top-tier scoring talent.
Yeah.
And John Daly is the Florida Panthers with more depth and grit. It's so perfect. We'll zoom in a little bit. That's just it's a classic meme. We've come across that plenty of times over the years. But that's kind of perfect about this series. The Oilers are the nice, well-kept, nicely dressed Tiger Woods in his heyday, and the Florida Panthers, they're John Daly wearing the pink pants, smoking the cigar, and wearing the Oakleys or whatever it is he's wearing there. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up right there.
Yeah. And so far, the grit and depth is winning it.
Yeah, and that's why we love hockey because you got to be deep. We'll see how Game 5 goes. This has been episode 235 of Catfish and Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. We had a lot of fun bringing this episode to you. If you watched on YouTube tonight, please hit subscribe below. If you're on Facebook or X, also hit follow, comment, tell us how we did. Talk hockey with us. We love you. And also, if you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, hit us up as well. Thank you so much for being loyal listeners. If you're a first-time listener, welcome to the show. And stick around with us throughout the offseason and into next season. We would love to have you. Until then, Max, I think it's time to bow out for the night.
Yep. See you guys later.
All right. Take it easy, everybody. We'll see you soon.